Today we started our first unit for proportional reasoning and linear relationships. And so part of that comes from what you did in 7th grade with proportional reasoning, rates, ratios. And so one of the first things that we need to remember is unit rate. And a unit rate is how much of something per one unit of another quantity. So some examples of that, miles per hour, cost per shirt. There really we could measure anything. If I were trying to do a lot of push-ups, maybe I'm looking at how many push-ups I can do in 1 minute, and that would be push-ups per minute. So when we're looking at finding unit rates, remember every situation we could actually find two. So I could find the number of miles I could drive in 1 hour, miles per hour, or maybe it would be helpful for me to look at the number of hours it would take for 1 mile if I were traveling. Sometimes if I were running, maybe I want to know how many kilometers per hour, or maybe I want to know how long it's going to take me to run a kilometer. So maybe my time, maybe I'm measuring in minutes, maybe it's minutes per kilometer. If I'm trying to get to a certain pace, then minutes per kilometer would be more useful than kilometers per minute. So depending on what the situation is, one unit rate might be more helpful than another. So when we're finding unit rates, remember per tells us to divide. So that's an important clue word for us. So for the first example, we need to find two rates to represent the situation. And we're told that Tony travels 12 kilometers in 84 minutes. So the first thing for us to think about is what unit rates could I find? There are two unit rates. So the first unit rate is kilometers per minute. Or I could also find the minutes per kilometer. So when we're setting this up, we always want to show our thinking. And one of the most common mistakes is to get your division mixed up, right? So the way that I'm going to show my work here, not only does it help me keep everything straight, but I'm able to show my thinking for this problem. So the number of kilometers, we're going to write that right underneath kilometers. Tony went 12 kilometers. Per is our keyword to divide, and then the number of minutes here is 84. So when we write our work like this, we can see that to find the kilometers per minute, then we need to do 12 divided by 84. If we do 12 divided by 84, we get a decimal, so we just need to make sure that we can use rounding rules. Which decimal place we round to isn't necessarily important for comparing. We need to make sure that we're careful about that. But for this, we could say that Tony would travel approximately 1/1400ths of a kilometer per minute. And that would be one possible unit rate. So then if I were looking at finding minutes per kilometer, again, the number of minutes, in this case, there were 84 minutes. Per, again, is the keyword to divide, and the number of kilometers in this case, the number of kilometers in this case is 12. And so if we look at, to find the minutes per kilometer, we need to do 84 divided by 12, and 84 divided by 12 is 7, and this piece right here tells us what our unit rate is. So 7 minutes per kilometer. So those are our two unit rates that we could use for this problem with Tony. I put some things on there for us to think about. Which one is usually, which one do we use the most? And then how does that match what we're graphing? And it depends, the one that we're looking at, if we're trying to make a graph, when we're making a graph, and we have our independent variable on the x-axis and our dependent variable on the y-axis. And we're looking for a unit rate of something per one of something else. Then we're really looking for the dependent per the independent. So if we were looking at, if this was my distance, if our dependent was distance measured in kilometers and our independent was time measured in minutes, then in this case, dependent per independent would be kilometers per minute, right? So it's helpful for us to look at the scenario that we're given, think about which one is dependent and which one is independent if we're using that to make a table, make a graph, make an equation. If we only needed to use the unit rate to solve the problem, then it doesn't matter which one we use, okay?